A court here in Paris is deciding whether or not to release the former French President Nicolas Sarkozy from prison. If it happens, it would be less than 3 weeks after he began serving a 5-year sentence for criminal conspiracy in a scheme to finance his 2007 election campaign with funds from Libya. Sarkozy was jailed on October the 21st, pending appeal, but immediately filed for early release. We're going to cross to the court, talk to our reporter Camille, who joins us from there. We have a problem with that apparently, so we're going to cross, in fact, to our reporter Antonia Kerrigan, who joins us from the prison. Antonia, bring us up to date with the latest then.
Well, from what we've heard from the courtroom, the various lawyers for his defence argued that the decision to implement provisional implementation of his sentence, that is to say, to send Nicolas Sarkozy to prison immediately after conviction, even though he has an appeal coming up in March, was an unusual and controversial decision, and that the former president does not represent a flight risk or a danger to the population at large. Now, we don't yet have a ruling. We're expecting a ruling at 1:30 this afternoon, so in a few hours. However, we think it is likely that the former president will be released, at least perhaps with some conditions, including potential requirements that he report to the local police station, or requirement that he wear an electronic bracelet, ankle bracelet specifically. And seemingly the prosecutors did not object to such an arrangement. So it seems very likely that Nicolas Sarkozy will leave this building behind me later today. We know that he attended the hearing by video link, and his lawyer was with him seemingly in the prison. We saw his lawyer leave just a few minutes ago, and he refused to speak to the press who surrounded him as he walked down the street looking for quotes. However, he did have a confident smile on his face, suggesting that Nicolas Sarkozy's lawyers are confident of some kind of positive news for their side of this case today.
Antonia will continue to follow that, of course, with you at the prison. We can now cross to the court itself, talk to Camille, who joins us from there. Camille, you were in court, so you've been in court as this hearing got underway. Bring us the latest from there, then.
Hi, Stuart. Well, doors to the courtroom behind me are closed for now while the judges deliberate on whether or not to let Nicolas Sarkozy leave prison, at least temporarily, pending his appeals trial. Now, we watched Sarkozy join the session from video link with 2 of his lawyers by his side as they sought to convince the judges that it was unreasonable to keep him in jail pending that appeals trial. There was huge emphasis on the fact that this was something to be considered that was completely separate from the sentence itself, and that of course will be decided in March. The goal for Sarkozy's team was to convince the judges that Sarkozy fits a certain number of criteria that would allow him to be released temporarily. So that includes the fact that he isn't a flight risk, that his whole family is in France, that most of his close family is in Paris, that he has no intention of leaving the country, that he's very attached to his country, and that he is also very attached to the idea of proving his innocence here in France. Another criteria is that he may try and influence some of the witnesses. Now, again, his lawyers argued that that was simply impossible in this case, that the court would notice if one of the testimony from one of the witnesses were to change, and that would be suspicious, and that it would just simply not be worth the risk for Sarkozy. Finally, something both his lawyers and Sarkozy really emphasised to the presiding judge was the suffering he'd endured during his 3 weeks in prison. Nicolas Sarkozy spoke of a nightmare, and that alone would be enough to deter him from breaching any of the parameters that would be put in place for his release. Even the prosecutor, you heard Antonia say it there, asking the judges that he be released pending his appeals trial under very strict judicial supervision, though, electronic tag, regular appointments, of course, something he is quite accustomed to by now, given his previous convictions. Of course, that final decision will have in about 2.5 hours.
Camille, thanks very much. Camille joining us there from the court.